$42,000. Derek Sloan held Levi's panel quote between two fingers, as if the paper itself might be dirty. For that garbage? Beyond the glass wall of the Sawmill office, 3 men stopped loading boards. They had heard Derek laugh at Levi Miller before, but they had never seen Levi place a quote on his desk. Levi stood quietly in his black felt hat and plain dark vest. Sawdust clung to one sleeve. His horse and buggy waited beside the employee parking lot, surrounded by pickup trucks. The hotel did not buy garbage, Levi said. Derek tapped the contract. Northridge dumped those logs on your farm because they were useless. That is what you wrote. Levi opened a brown envelope and placed a second document beside the quote. Derek's smile disappeared. 29 months earlier, he had signed that paper without reading the final line. Now that single line meant the twisted walnut behind Levi's barn belonged to Levi. Every log, every slab, every dollar of it. And Derek still had not seen the 30-foot table waiting inside the hotel. If you have ever watched a quiet person get mistaken for an ignorant one, subscribe to the channel now, because what Levi saw inside those ruined trees was something an entire modern sawmill had failed to recognize. But to understand how 180 unwanted logs became the largest order of Levi's life, we have to return to the morning the dump trucks arrived. Cedar Hollow sat among the low green hills of Holmes County, Ohio. The Miller farm covered 31 acres at the end of a narrow gravel lane. There was a white farmhouse, a red bank barn, 2 draft horses, 12 dairy cows, and a woodworking shop built beneath the barn's north side. Levi Miller was 26. He lived there with his wife, Miriam, their 2 young daughters, and Levi's widowed mother, Anna. Their church district did not permit electricity from utility lines, but it allowed a stationary diesel engine to power the shop's overhead belts. To an outsider, the machinery looked old. To Levi, every sound had meaning. His father, Samuel, had taught him to hear when a blade was dull, smell when a bearing was heating, and feel when a board still carried too much water. Samuel had died 3 winters earlier after a short illness. He left Levi the farm, the tools, and a narrow notebook filled with measurements written in pencil. The last page contained one sentence. Wood remembers how it grew. Levi understood the words as advice about grain. He did not yet know they would save the farm. That spring, the family was behind on a barn roof payment. Levi built furniture for a non-Amish dealer named Sarah Bell, but 4 days of work on a table might leave him only $160. On April 17th, shortly after 7 in the morning, a white pickup turned into the lane. Derek Sloan stepped out wearing clean boots and a Northridge sawmill jacket. Derek managed the mill 6 miles away. A storm had damaged hundreds of trees. The straight trunks had sold. What remained were crotches, root flares, bent sections, and knots too large for the automated carriage. Black walnut, Derek said. Technically. What is wrong with it? Everything. Crooked, twisted. Some may have nails. We cannot run it. Disposal wants $80 a ton. Derek offered Levi $900 to accept the pile as firewood. Northridge would deliver it. Levi would assume the cost of cleaning the ground afterward. How many logs? 180. $900 would cover roofing materials, but 180 logs could bury half the north pasture. Levi asked to see the paperwork. Derek smiled. You Amish fellows really do keep paper for everything. Paper does not forget. The transfer form described the load as storm-damaged wood waste. Near the bottom, it said, recipient accepts permanent ownership and all responsibility upon delivery. Levi signed. By sunset, 6 trailers had emptied a mountain of twisted wood beside the barn. 2 mill workers stood near the final truck. What will he build? One shouted. A crooked house? The other pointed at a log bent like an elbow. Maybe a chair for a man with 3 legs. Derek laughed from his pickup. Levi said nothing. He walked to the pile, placed his palm against the wet bark, and felt a ridge turning around the trunk like a rope beneath a blanket. Then he noticed something the others had missed. Rainwater had darkened a fresh scar where the loader had torn away the bark. Beneath it, the grain did not run straight. It folded over itself in tight waves of gold and brown. Levi took a handsaw from the shop and cut a thin slice from the end. The mill workers laughed again. "He has started making cookies." Levi carried the slice into the shop. He flattened one face with his father's hand plane, taking off pale curls no thicker than paper. After 10 minutes, the rough wood opened into a pattern that looked like smoke trapped beneath glass. It was figured walnut. Not every crooked tree produced it. Figure formed where a tree had spent decades under stress, dividing its weight between limbs, twisting against wind, healing around pressure. The same forces that made the logs unsuitable for an automated mill had created grain that ordinary straight trunks could not produce. Levi set the slice on the kitchen table that evening. Miriam ran one finger across it. "Is it valuable?" "It could be." "Could be is not the same as is." Levi nodded. That was one reason he trusted her. The next morning, Levi numbered and measured every log. After 12 days, 37 showed promising figure, 62 might produce ordinary boards, and the rest remained uncertain. He recorded everything in a ledger. One log, number 21, had a massive fork and a fresh split down the center. Levi decided to open it first. Because the log would not sit properly on his carriage, he built a wooden cradle and pulled it into position with a team of horses. The band saw blade entered slowly. The shop filled with the sharp, earthy smell of walnut. When the first slab fell away, dark lines rolled across it like river currents. The split that made the mill reject the log created a natural opening through the center. Levi had never owned wood like it. He also made his first serious mistake that afternoon. A storm was expected, so Levi carried the slab into the warm shop and placed it near the diesel engine. For 3 days, the board looked perfect. On the 4th morning, a crack appeared. By supper, it ran 30 inches. The hot surface had tightened around a wet center, pulling the slab apart. Nearly $600 of possible table wood had become firewood because Levi had been in a hurry to protect it. Derek drove past that afternoon. He slowed his pickup beside the lane and saw Levi cutting the ruined slab into stove lengths. "Found your fortune?" he called. Levi kept sawing. That night, he opened Samuel's notebook. Most pages contained cutting lists and moisture readings. Near the middle, Levi found 3 pages about a walnut tree his father had milled in 1998. Samuel had drawn a crooked trunk and written, "The more a tree fights the wind, the longer it must be allowed to rest." His instructions were simple. Seal the ends. Stack the slabs with dry spacers. Keep them from sun and hot air. Do not ask the center to dry at the speed of the surface. Levi read the page twice. The wood had not failed him. He had failed to understand its pace. Have you ever damaged something good because you tried to force the result too quickly? If stories about patience, skill, and second chances matter to you, subscribe now. Levi had learned what not to do, but he still had 179 untouched logs and no customer willing to wait a year. Levi built a 60-foot drying shed. Men from the community came for a work frolic, and by dark, the roof was on. Levi cut only the most promising logs. He painted their ends with wax, stacked the slabs with 1-inch spacers, and placed heavy beams across the top. Then he waited. That was the part Derek never understood. From the road, the slabs appeared abandoned. Grass grew around the shed. Dust settled on the upper rows. Weeks became months. Levi continued building ordinary furniture, while the walnut rested in the moving Ohio air. Every Saturday, he checked the stacks and recorded the weight of sample boards. One slab twisted beyond use. Mold reached 6 more, but Levi saved 4 by increasing the spacing. In the 12th month, the first sample became stable. Levi planed 1 face. The figure was deeper than the original slice had promised. He did not build a dining table. He built a small bench for the farmhouse entry, using the natural curve of the slab as the front edge. The dark opening became part of the design instead of a defect. When Sarah Bell arrived to collect a cabinet order, she stopped at the door. "Where did you buy that bench?" "I did not buy it." "Can you make another?" Levi looked toward the drying shed. "Not quickly." Sarah smiled. "Good furniture is never the thing my customers need quickly." Sarah displayed the bench in Millersburg, beneath a card reading, "Storm-felled Ohio walnut. 1 of 1. 3 days later, a Columbus designer paid $1,200 for grain no factory could repeat. Levi made a second bench, then 2 small tables. He stabilized the cracks and shaped around them, preserving evidence of wind and time. Sarah sold all 3 within a month. She handled photographs, messages, and delivery. Levi received printed orders every Tuesday. By the following January, the Walnut had brought in $19,400. That was when Derek returned. He brought Paul Mercer, counsel for North Ridge. Derek looked into the drying shed. "We understand some of our walnut may have been included in those loads." "All of it was yours," Levi said. "The company transferred disposal responsibility," Paul said. "It did not knowingly transfer valuable timber." Levi wiped his hands on a cloth. "The form says permanent ownership." "The form describes wood waste." "That is what your company called it." Paul handed Levi a letter ordering him to stop cutting. That night, Levi considered returning the logs rather than fighting a company with more money than the entire district. Anna brought him a box of Samuel's business papers. Inside were the original transfer form and 6 delivery tickets signed by North Ridge drivers. At the bottom of every page were the words, "Material rejected by mill. No retained value." A bank-stamped copy of the $900 check proved North Ridge had paid Levi to assume ownership. Levi sent copies to Paul Mercer by certified mail. He kept the originals in the wooden box. Paul did not answer. 2 weeks later, Sarah brought Claire Donnelly, purchasing director for a hotel near Lake Erie. Claire asked which slabs could be book-matched and whether Levi could trace each board to a log. Levi brought out his ledger. Every slab had a number. Every number led to a log and a signed ticket. She laughed, but not at him. The hotel wanted a 30-foot conference table, lobby tables, benches, and staircase panels. Its budget was $238,600. There was one problem. The hotel opened in 7 months. Some of Levi's best slabs needed at least 10. Levi closed the order folder. "Then I cannot accept it." Claire blinked. "You are turning down nearly $250,000? "I'm turning down a delivery date." He showed her the ruined piece from his first slab. He had kept it beside the stove, the crack still running through the wild grain. "This is what happens when the calendar dries the wood." Claire asked what he could finish safely. Levi consulted his ledger, and they divided the installation into 2 phases. The price remained unchanged. If you want stories where the victory is earned by refusing the easy shortcut, subscribe before we return to Derek's office, because Levi's old paper ledger was about to defeat the mill's legal claim. The work began the following Monday. Levi trained 2 young craftsmen. Miriam tracked costs, and Sarah coordinated delivery. The 30-foot table came from 3 slabs, cut from log number 84. Levi opened the log like a book, so the grain mirrored itself across the center. The finished surface looked like 2 dark rivers meeting. Hidden maple supports stabilized the natural openings without interrupting the grain. For 7 weeks, the table occupied nearly the entire shop. On the morning it left the farm, Levi's daughter stood beside the lane and watched a flatbed carry it away. Miriam held the original purchase order against the wind. Do you think your father imagined this? Levi looked at the cracked first slab near the stove. He imagined waiting. The hotel installed the table beneath tall windows overlooking the lake. At the Thursday opening, the owner asked Levi if he had made it alone. No, Levi said, and named everyone who had helped. He did not mention Derek's laughter. He did not need to. Photographs appeared in 2 design publications, and new requests arrived within days. Northridge's attorney finally answered. The company withdrew its claim, but Derek still believed Levi had simply gotten lucky. He believed one buyer had paid too much for a fashionable table. Then Claire sent Northridge a request for replacement wall panels. During installation, the hotel added a second staircase. Claire wanted the wood to match. She contacted Derek first, assuming the mill that supplied the original logs could provide similar material. Northridge could not. Its automated line had cut every straight walnut trunk into ordinary boards. The mill had discarded the only pieces capable of producing that figure. Claire referred Derek back to Levi. That was why Levi stood inside the Sawmill office 29 months after the dump trucks entered his lane. Derek held Levi's $42,000 quote. Levi placed the transfer form beside it. Northridge dumped those logs on your farm because they were useless, Derek said. That is what you wrote. Levi pointed to the last line. Recipient accepts permanent ownership and all responsibility upon delivery. Then he placed the 6 delivery tickets on the desk. Material rejected by mill. No retained value. Derek read the sentence twice. What do you want? 36 matched panels from log number 84 will cost $42,000. You are charging me for wood we gave you. I'm charging the hotel for finished panels. You asked to stand between us. Derek looked through the glass wall. The workers outside were no longer laughing. And after this order, Levi removed one final page from the envelope. It was not a demand. It was a proposal. Northridge spent more than $14,000 each year disposing of crooked hardwood. Levi offered to accept selected logs at no dumping fee. Northridge would deliver them and sign permanent transfer tickets. Levi would inspect the loads, reject contaminated wood, and pay the mill 10% of future raw slab sales. As goodwill, he would also apply that percentage to the current panel order. Derek studied the numbers. The arrangement would save the mill money, even if Levi never sold another board. Why give us 10%? So next time, you look before you throw something away. Derek signed. The 36 panels were installed 4 months later. Northridge received its first check from Levi for $4,200. Derek pinned the copy beside his disposal reports. The laughter ended quietly. Drivers stopped calling the loads garbage. Workers began setting unusual walnut aside. Derek learned to wait until Levi finished a cut before speaking. 3 years later, Levi employed 6 craftsmen and accepted wood from 5 mills. The diesel engine still turned the overhead belts, and orders still arrived on paper. The business did not become large because Levi abandoned his way of life. It became valuable because his way of life had trained him to notice what speed concealed. Levi framed the bank-stamped copy of Northridge's $900 check with the first delivery ticket and hung them beside Samuel's notebook. Under them, he mounted one piece of the slab he had ruined. Visitors often asked why a cracked board deserved the best place in the shop. Levi would touch the split and say, "That one taught me the cost of hurry." The 180 logs did not all become furniture. 37 produced extraordinary figure. 62 produced useful boards. 23 became turning blanks and tool handles. 41 heated homes and workshops. The final 17, too decayed to cut safely, were laid along an eroding pasture edge, where they slowed runoff and sheltered wildlife. Every log found a purpose, even though no two held the same value. That may be the most honest part of the story. Seeing value does not mean pretending everything is valuable. It means looking long enough to know the difference. North Ridge had stronger machines, faster saws, computer scanners, and buyers across the state. Levi had a hand plane, a paper ledger, his father's sentence, and the patience to let wood move at the speed wood required. The mill saw crooked trunks. Levi saw the record of every wind the trees had survived. And in the end, the defect was never in the walnut. It was in the eyes that had been trained to recognize only straight lines. If this story reminded you of a person whose quiet skill was overlooked, tell us about them in the comments. Share this with someone who is building slowly while the world laughs quickly. And subscribe for more stories about ordinary people who discover extraordinary value in the things everyone else has already thrown away.